Hello and welcome to the Leadership to Wealth podcast. I'm Neil D'Souza, your host, and I'm here to let you know that we are slightly changing our format. We are taking the most high value moments of each conversation we have on the podcast and putting those into the audio version, which you're about to hear. You can get the entire conversation on our Leadership to Wealth YouTube page. So you can catch the rest there when you go and subscribe. Thanks for being a listener of Leadership to Wealth and enjoy this episode. On today's show, we've got a real estate investor who's been in the business for 20 years, has been teaching people about real estate, has been selling real estate, has made a lot of good investment decisions and had a number of investment failures along the way. But of course, continued to learn and continued to teach others, and has really learned that there is a power in pouring and investing into the people and team around you. On today's episode, Joe Killinger. Joe, I'm so glad to have you on with us today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Well, Joe, 20 years as a real estate investor, I think is really how you classify it, because you're not just an agent, you're an investor, you're a teacher, mentor, coach. You've done a lot of things. Why? I'm gonna just throw you into the deep end here. Why do people listen to you? What is it they come to you for?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One, the experience. I've got, I say 20 years. That's just so I don't sound so old. This gray hair,
Hey, listen, let's not start comparing gray hairs.
Well, okay. But I think it's because I'm not selling anything. We've got an incredible industry on the brokerage side, especially, and it's an industry that's going to, it needs to evolve, right? The average age of a commercial real estate agent's in the 50 some years old. If we don't figure out how to bring the younger generation into this, then there's going to be a problem. You can't have an industry where everybody is retiring out of it. And so now we're on the right path. I got involved with a couple of the Commercial Real Estate Influencer Summit. And what they're doing is allowing younger generation to come in, and they're using technology. So they're making it a lot more interesting. So that, it's really in social networking is bringing a lot of younger generation into it. And we're seeing some growth. Now, I know we're going into, you probably saw yesterday, CBRE is laying a bunch of people off, and there's going to be some hiccups here in the next year or so, right? But I think, that's why I do it, is to really try and help the younger people find their path as a commercial real estate agent or as an investor.
Well, Joe, that's a great point that you just kind of bring up there, because the question that I would maybe pose to you, even though I'm in real estate and I've got all my thoughts, I'd like to throw this out to you. Why would people be looking at real estate anymore? I mean, it kind of seems like it's on the way down, and maybe it's out there. Maybe we should be looking at cryptocurrency. What's your thought?
You do not want to look at cryptocurrency right now. Okay. And honestly, that's something, that business, I think it'll probably be it'll rebound, but to what degree, I don't know. I haven't really looked at it.
Yeah. So why real estate versus something like crypto?
I mean, if Neil, you take a business like this right now, and I'm going to go back a little bit. So, since 2008, 2009, we've been in an up market, right?
Yeah.
And so, and this is what I'm telling everybody right now. There's a huge opportunity coming in commercial real estate. Everybody got away from the fundamentals because it was so easy to make money in real estate. Nobody was doing all the basics. And that's it. And at our commercial brokerage here in Los Angeles, we teach the basics from day one. So listen, if you don't do this, in any downturn, you're going to get left behind. And you're starting to see it. But, we're getting away from the basics is something that it can really be, it needs to be there. And right now, you need to be doing all your social networking. You need to be doing an email program. You need to be doing all kinds of networking where you can find, because there is going to be opportunity in a downturn. I think it's a great time to get into it. I've been through a few downturns, probably too many, but it brings opportunity. And the people that are out there doing it and doing it right are going to find that opportunity. And, you have to cast a wider net, right? But there is going to be opportunity. And that's why I think, and I'm just speaking about commercial real estate. Residential, that's not really my thing. I know a little, I was doing some of it years ago, but I don't do a whole lot of it. But I mean, if I'm speaking about Los Angeles, it's always almost the last one in to the recession, and it doesn't dip very far, and it's always the first one out because we got such a large population, such a small area. So that's the only aspect I had that I could touch on residential. But commercial, there's going to be deals available, and there's going to be opportunity. So that's why it's a good time to really get in and put your head down. You want to be. It's for real entrepreneurs, right? It was somebody put a meme out yesterday about these big companies and all these teams that there's 6-7 people on a team, and the people that aren't producing on those teams, which is going to be the younger people, are probably going to be let go. And so, if you're an entrepreneur and you're out there building your own thing and you're on your own, I really think it's the path to success.
Right. Okay, I've got to ask this question, Joe, because sometimes it feels like there are more agents than there are buyers out there, and and I'm thinking, why? Like for the number of people that are looking to buy, sell, all this kind of stuff, there is a huge number of realtors, real estate agents, and they're all acting like they're making money.
That's what we do. You kind of have to. Yeah. But, in Austin, Texas, 53% of real estate agents have given up their license. Dallas, Texas, 20%. They're dropping out pretty quickly. And now I don't know if they just didn't renew their license or they actually canceled their license, but those are big numbers. And those are people that were doing this part-time or weren't taking it serious. They're going to drop out. So I think, the pool of deals is going to get better. Because you're losing a lot of the people that weren't performing.
Well, Joe, here I gotta say this because I think there's this whole chunk of the industry, which I'm in too, just on the other side, on the finance side. But there's a huge chunk of the industry that they will talk about this, but then they're not even doing it themselves, and they're trying to tell us, hey, you should buy this, you should buy that. Are you an investor in commercial real estate as well?
You bet I am. I speak from experience. I started off, you know what? I should give you a little bit of a background, shouldn't I? I started off in real estate auctions in 94, 95. And if you ever want a time to start a business, not a good time. It was just strictly RTC, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, foreclosures. That's all we were doing. So we auctioned those off. And I got my now business partner, George Pino. He's the CEO of our commercial brokerage company. Actually laid me off at our old company. That's how I really got to know him, the day he laid me off. And then so I went over to another company that was launching an auction company, a real estate auction company. And George called me about a month later and said, listen, I'm going to get laid off. What's out there? And so I told him, I said, listen, if you want to come work with me, let's split everything 50-50.
Wait, hang on. He laid you off.
Yeah.
You went somewhere else, and then he called you back and said, okay, got it.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what we all have to remember, is the secretarial pool back then in the 90s, they knew everything. So you just stayed in touch with the secretarial pool because at the big companies. And so I was told that George was going to get laid off. So I was half expecting a call. And so I just said, listen, why don't you just come work with me? You know how to do the closing side of it. He handled closings at this old company, and I handled the marketing side of it. And so within 18 months, we were the number 2 auction company in the Western region. And we were landing Freddie Mac, some Fannie Mae, RTC properties, developers. So it worked out very, very well for us. But when we got going, we started, and that was short-lived, right? Now it's all online. So we did that about 5 or 6 years. And then we went into just doing regular brokerage. We thought, well, let's do some residential and some bulk sales with our old bank contacts. And so we did that, and we realized quickly residential wasn't for us. And so we just focused on the commercial stuff and the bulk sales. But then we started buying, and our first investment was a home run, and we bought 10 units. Terrible. It was a low income area in Los Angeles, 275,000. Thought we were overpaying, and we sold it 6 years later for 1.275 actually. But now our second investment, because we got a little cocky with the first one, right? The second investment, we bought a 3-story walk up in a low income area. Never ever buy a 3-story walk up in a low income area, because what we didn't realize is that it was largely Hispanic community and big families. These units were huge. Who's going to carry those groceries up those steps? And we had to really discount those units to keep the top ones leased out. And
Right.
yeah, it was a mess. So
Because nobody wants to have to walk up three stories.
yeah, we really missed on that one. So that's how we started. So we kept buying multifamily. We ended up owning a few hundred units around LA. And then we started buying in Dallas, Texas. And we just sold out of our multifamily there about a year and a half ago. And we bought some STNL assets in Allen, Texas and Dallas, Texas. And they're performing very well. So we do have a pretty significant brokerage and investment background.
Right. Okay. That sounds great. Now, I'm just, as a fellow investor, I'm curious with that 3-story, was there the ability, I mean, looking in hindsight, was there the ability to maybe convert those large family units into perhaps smaller units for
not the way the building was configured?
You know?
Yeah,
okay.
It wasn't. We thought of it. We're like, we got to do something here.
Yeah.
Maybe use a fire escape to really make a back entrance, because there was a back entrance, a front entrance, but
Yeah.
the way it was all laid out, no. But we're fortunate we got out of it, and
Yes.
I think we made a little bit of money, but no, we got lucky.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
but on the brokerage side, we've been doing this now we've had this company, Commercial Brokers International, for 17 years. We're right now in the process of, we were the broker of record for the Boring Company, Elon Musk Boring Company. Right now, we're working on an interesting project where we're bringing human carrying drones to LA, where you're going to be able to get off at LAX, take a cab or an Uber or Lyft to a pad where you can get in a drone, and it's going to fly you to another location like downtown LA, and then you'll be able to take and transport out from there. And so we're in the process of doing all that. So we've had some interesting stuff as well.
Okay, hang on a second. What did you just say? You're involved in creating drones that are going to fly people from the airport to their destination?
Yeah, well, we are not with a drone. We are with a company that handles the landing pads.
Yes.
So we go out and lease places for them to land. There's 200 and some odd companies building these human carrying drones. And so we just lease out the pads. And then there's like a small little shop. And then there's a place that can, mechanics can do it. And these drones are incredible. You guys should go online and see them. They have like 8 or 9 propellers on them. Super quiet, super fast. You'll be able to go from near LAX to downtown LA in a matter of minutes compared to, and it's not much more than like an Uber X. It'll be a little bit more than that, but not much. So they're working on the pricing schedule right now.
Wow. Bypass all the traffic, all of that stuff. It's like something out of Blade Runner. All of a sudden, we have all these drones
they're
flying
very
through
creative. And we got that because of all the stuff we were doing with the Boring Company. And so we kind of got a special niche there. And our CEO George is phenomenal at it.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so you've got your hands in a lot of different pots there, or you've done a lot of different things. I just want to go back to your previous example because I think there's probably a lesson in there.
Yeah.
From your first victory, 275 to 1.275.
Yeah.
To an almost dud. You got lucky.
I would call it a dud because we didn't really make. I mean, if we made a couple points, that would be it.
Yeah. What was the lesson the real lessons that you got out of that? And why do you think that you went from that to, from victory to almost failure?
Ego, I'd say. And we really thought we had it figured out because we'd brokered deals, right, for other people. What we learned is, ask more questions. And I always tell everybody when I'm mentoring, and this is why I mentor, because I've made a lot of mistakes, is make sure your due diligence. You got to treat it like it's a business. And we were doing other things, and investment was kind of a side thing that we were doing. We had a lot of brokerage going on. I mean, when we were doing the auctions, we were doing 600-700 properties a year, so we had a couple of closings each day. So there's a lot of paperwork going back and forth, a lot of showings to organize. There was a lot happening, and so we probably took our eye off the ball, and we weren't treating it like a real business. And I think having a home run in the very beginning, and it kind of, we got a little too cocky. But you've got to treat it like a business, and your due diligence is so critical. Get down, boots on the ground, start talking to the neighbors. We just kind of thought, we're going to go in here and this is what we're going to do with this property, and that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a couple of things that I'm hearing there. I really appreciate you sharing that piece about the ego, because that's, I think, especially in the market that we've been coming through really for the last 30 years, if you ask me, we've had pretty much an up cycle, and I think a lot of people have bought into their own press in many ways, and so I would almost say, from what you were saying in terms of make sure you're doing your due diligence, is real estate really the place to keep going if you can't see that next step? What protects you from the downside risk, especially as we're looking into job losses, which we started mentioning? I mean, just had the election. We're still waiting for the final results, but it looks like it's going to be pretty tumultuous. We've got, there's a war in Ukraine going on, which, is being funded out of all these Western countries. So, there's a lot of instability there, and it looks like the horizon looks like it could be a downward trend. Why should people still be looking in this direction?
Long term, it's still one of the best investments out there. Yeah. It's just, I really think that, if you do your basics and you really study the market. Now, this depends on your market. If you're I'm from Nebraska, so if you're in small town Nebraska, that's a completely different deal than Los Angeles.
Nebraska, Cornhuskers?
Oh yeah, let's not talk about it. I'm
very got it.
Frustrated with it. No, we can talk about it. I have hopes for this new coach. I really hope he was brought up. I think he was an assistant coach now as a head coach. So I have a lot of hopes for him. I know he's got a good team. He's just got to get it organized. It goes back to team building, right? You got to get everybody going the same direction, and that's what he's going through.
Yeah. Well, if you're from Nebraska, you're either a football player or a wrestler, one of the two. So I know both. So, but it's very important. But no, real estate to me is, as long as you buy it right, you've got to really break down. There's a lot of historical data, and you need to go in and take a look at it. And you've got to really base your decision on your investment on, this is what my return is. I mean, I've got so many people right now that are just excited to go into a slowdown because they've got cash sitting on the sideline. They're just waiting to buy. And I think there's just going to be a lot of opportunity when it turns. Yes. I mean, I've got friends that bought in the last downturn, and they retired 4 years later. They bought it all up, and they're just like, okay, I'm done. Yeah.
And, they were pretty young at the time.
Oh, I love what you're saying. I absolutely agree with you 100%. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the things that I've learned is that oftentimes people are waiting for the market to look a certain way. And for the regular person, they're looking for it to be going in this upcycle. Even though they know you should be buying low and selling high, they're usually buying high because that's the excitement, right? So they're jumping in at that point in time. And unfortunately, those buyers tend to lose out the most. Yeah. But then even for investors, when you move over to investors that are supposed to know this, even they get caught into somewhat of that trap. And but what I see for investors, and I was caught in it before as well, is when the opportunity is there, you don't have cash You don't have the funding, the
Yep.
financing available to be able to, uh, enjoy that opportunity. And usually, I'm sure, like yourself, you had to lose out on seeing a previous cycle go through
Yeah.
before you can start to look at this one and go, oh, this one's coming. We
Yeah.
need to have something ready. And so, what would you say about that for people that are interested in being an investor, people that perhaps are trying to prepare, and then they're saying, but what sector is it going to be in? What should I be looking at? How do I know when it's time?
There's a lot of very sophisticated investors ask that same question. And that's why, they've got a lot of money is they keep asking themselves that.
Yeah.
They're like, what's next? Where's the next opportunity? And I mean, it's hard to say. It depends on, I mean, we've got so much going on in LA right now that they're looking, and we'll know later today. They're looking to put a sales tax. It's very substantial sales tax on real estate. Anything over 5 million is going to get a sales tax. I mean, this is on top of everything else, commissions, everything. A sales tax of 4.4%. Anything over
Mm-hmm.
5 million, 4.4%. Anything over 10 million, 5%. And I think Santa
Mm-hmm.
Monica was over. I think it was over 8 million. And so there's a lot of ifs right now, right? Everybody's kind of set this last week. But as far as the money, if you only have 100,000 or less, or getting into an STNL is going to be very hard to do. Maybe you start off with smaller multifamily,
Yeah.
or smaller retail building. I don't think office is such a scary thing right now, right? It's our office investors are just sitting there like trying to figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But start off small and don't take too big of a piece. If you're going to be self-managing it, especially, you better know how to do it. You better know how to manage the property. You better understand the local restrictions, all the laws, and you have to know all that. So you got to prep yourself. So if you don't have money right now, you should be prepping. You should be watching every YouTube channel, every video you can get your hands on, listening to podcasts like yours, education. And
Yeah.
when you have it, you're ready to go because, like I said before, this is a business and you have to be prepared because I've seen a lot of investors that, they bought the last couple of years and now their loans are coming due. And
Mm-hmm.
what are they going to do? The interest rate is
Yeah.
considerably higher than they bought top of market and it's probably dipped a little bit in their market and now they need to refi. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be ready.
Absolutely. And I think each of those you mentioned a number of them, and I think we need to clarify that each of those areas are a completely different market when you
Oh,
go
yeah.
from residential to multifamily, from multifamily to office to industrial, right? And all
Mm-hmm.
of these spaces are very different demographics, very different underlying data that you need to be looking at, right? Due
Mm-hmm.
diligence that you need to look at, and now, and you mentioned about the office space there just
Yeah.
briefly. I watched over COVID when when COVID hit. I watched a property that went from $6.5 million to you couldn't get someone to offer 1.5 on it. Now it was a little crazy, but of course it was this thing that nobody knew about what is about to happen, right? And
Right.
so as a result, everybody backed off. Now, would have been amazing if you could have bought that building for 1.5 if you had
Right.
1.5 million sitting in your pocket. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to look at that space specifically because we have seen such a huge change in the world where
Mm-hmm.
people are working more and more remotely. And so, are we beginning to see a downsizing in the office space, in the office buildings, in those types of markets?
I wish I had a crystal ball on that one, Neil. But I tell you, I sit on both sides. Every office broker says no.
Right.
But Facebook earlier, I think late last week, walked away from 547,000 square feet of office in Austin.
Hmm.
That's fairly small market. That's a big hit. So what do you do with that? I do think we are going to go back to more people being in the office. I think companies are figuring out how to really work with their employees. At least I hope so. But they're figuring it out. Maybe it's going to be 3 or 4 days in the office and a day at home, or Fridays at home, or. But I do think office is going to have to evolve, and they've got to figure out how to make it more productive in their offices. And so, we're seeing it's going to have to evolve.
Yeah.
And I just don't. I think companies are going to be downsizing over the next couple of years. Now you got to remember, when Facebook, Twitter, all these companies are doing these mass layoffs, they had all these people because they're building to grow and grow and grow, right? Well, now it's all about, we need to make money. So that's where they'll eventually grow again, and how much office space will they need then? And how much is it going to be work from home? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think that's an easy one in terms of, hey, they're cutting the jobs right now because they're increasing their runway, right? Lower your burn. We're going into an inflationary market, or we're in an inflationary market. Hey, let's reduce how much money we're spending here. We'll do more with less. I think across the board, everyone's understanding that and getting that picture that they need to do that. Unless we can get our governments to turn around and maybe open up some oil pipelines and bring down the prices of some of these things. I don't know. I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, but it's just interesting that they don't want to allow us to have more access to our own fuel, which we clearly have. They're making it harder on the farmers with fertilizer, which increases the price of food, which we also clearly have, and they're increasing taxes.
Yeah. And the diesel fuel shortage that nobody's talking about. There's 28 days or 30 days of diesel fuel, and there's a lot that. And maybe they'll figure it out. At least let's hope so. Because, and we got to remember, we're still in one of the greatest countries in the world, the greatest country in the world. Yeah. It's a little divided right now, but hopefully we'll all figure this out. And hopefully after these elections we move on from it. But I doubt it, but not for a while. But let's hope that we do, and we can learn from what we should not be, and figure out how we can all work together and grow, because nobody wins in this environment, right? It's just nobody wins. And so we got to figure out a way that, we got to bring a positive side to this and really get this country back on track. And,
I'm going to
a lot of other countries depend on us.
I hate to say this, but I'm probably going to disagree on on nobody wins, because the reality is that there's a lot of opportunity for investors. Into this market, right? I actually feel bad to some degree, because you and I have seen down markets before, and we've watched as people have been wiped out and have been hurt. And you kind of have two choices. Do you sit back and go, oh, you know what, everyone's getting hurt? Or do you realize that this is just a cycle that human beings participate in on a consistent basis? As much as I'd love to blame the government, it happens over and over again, and so you can't really blame them, right?
It's a long overdue cycle. We've been in an upswing for quite a while. No, I meant by nobody wins is, the politicians win but the rest of us, we got to go out and find that opportunity. And you're right, there will be a lot of opportunity, and in all asset classes, I think. Well, I don't know about residential again, but in stock market and real estate.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, and as a professional in the space, I want to ask you this. Facebook has been making this huge move to Meta, to virtual reality.
Yeah.
We have an Oculus, and I've seen some of the programs in there. They've already got a virtual reality chat. They've got a board meeting sort of game where you can do this kind of stuff, and they are putting a lot of money into virtual reality, and you're really starting to see. I'm looking up the road and I'm going, they want to make a push to convert us over to virtual reality where we don't need to go into the office. Where we don't even need to get out of a chair, which is why I happen to like multifamily residential
Investment.
real estate.
Yeah.
Because someone's always going to have a place to put their body, and
Exactly.
feed themselves. So I don't know about the offices, but what can you say anything about that? I know it's too far ahead to really say anything with any authority, but to some degree, everyone's like, we're literally going to put ourselves into the matrix.
Yeah. Yeah. I had this conversation with an older gentleman the other day, and he goes, my grandparents and parents all worked in industry. They were manufacturing and farming and that kind of stuff. He goes, and then my generation, we're all sitting in offices, and everything is kind of, it's all done with mechanic. All the farm equipment has gotten so much better. You need a lot less farmers. You need a lot less people in the warehouses. He goes, now we're all going in offices. He goes, the next phase is going to be, you're going to have to control AI. You're going to have to know how to control the AI. And he goes, that's the next phase. He goes, that's where we're going. He goes, and the thing is, it was very interesting getting his perspective. And he goes, if you don't know how to control that AI, you're going to be left behind. So you've got to be learning constantly. And I think it's going to be, there was a lot coming out before the pandemic or during the pandemic with some companies. I think EXP was on. I don't know if they're still there or not. I know they were there doing it, and they were doing virtual meetings and all that. You don't see much about it right now, but, and then there was the people that were buying in all these channels and buying real estate. And, there's a difference between there's speculation and there's investing, right? Mm-hmm. And I got into an interview, I was on a podcast. I said, well, that's not really investing, because investing is taking historical data, putting it together current, and then look at where you think it's going to go.
Yeah.
There's no previous historical data about what's online. And that created some conversation, and it was pretty interesting to hear their take on it. They didn't agree. They thought it was real estate investing still, but there's a lot of ifs to be worked out yet in that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's. We've talked about a lot of ifs. Let's talk about the the true test that we know of, because there's these ifs that you can put a certain amount of money. You can put some money on, make some bets, whether it's crypto, whether it's AI, whether it's these things. But we know that their steady Eddie is out there. It's why we do real estate. It's why we love teaching it. It's why we preach it. And so the question is, for people that are already, most of the people that are watching you and I are already in real estate, and they're trying to figure out what's the next step that I should be looking at in my journey. Maybe I've already got a couple of properties and I'm trying to figure out what's the next go, where I put my money. Do I keep doing hard money lending, private lending? Do I move into commercial spaces? Do I stay in residential? Do I move into multifamily? What's some of the thought processes, the mentoring that you would give to people as they're trying to figure out this next step in their journey going into 2023?
And I was guilty of this when I first got into it. I had eggs in so many baskets that, it was hard to control them all. And I tell everybody, do what you know right now. Only do what you know. If it's STNLs, then stick with that right now. If it's multifamily, find the right assets. Do more calls, cast a wire, find more multifamily. But only do what you know. Don't be doing something that looks like a good deal to you, because if you don't understand it, you could get your ass handed to you.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've sold those properties.
Yes.
People that got in, I'm like, I'll give you an example. So a guy from, I actually bought the properties, how I know about it. So it was a 73 unit multifamily deal in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
And we were looking there. It came up. It was off market deal. They brought it to me. I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, these numbers don't seem right. So we get it in escrow, and I'm sitting there with a property manager, and she said, are you going to keep me on? I said, honestly, I can't afford to. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, your salary is almost double what everybody else in the market is. And she goes, well, what is that? And the property management company had been charging almost double and keeping half of it. And so, but this guy didn't know the market. He was a Northern California guy, went into Dallas, Texas, didn't know the market. They were charging him VAT for the property manager, for a maintenance person that was no longer there, and free units. Wow. And this guy was losing his property because he didn't understand the market.
Right.
Right. You've got to know what you're doing. Otherwise, and people will take advantage. So you've really got to know what you're doing. And now's the time to really focus on what you know and build on that.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty scary story. Because someone wasn't really paying attention, and that happened.
He didn't know. He didn't understand the business. So I went back to him. I'm like, listen, I know we're in escrow, and I'm willing to walk away, but you need to understand that this is what's happened to you. And he goes, I just want out of it. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay.
And I think that's what we're walking into here, especially into 2023, is people are going to start saying, I just want out of it. Whether it's a single family house, whether it's a multi-unit, there are going to be people, office buildings, there are just going to be people that say, I just want out of it. Pay me this much and I'll walk away.
I just want my money back, and hopefully I won't lose as much. And we've seen that, and we've seen brokers or agents or investors that have just overpaid, and they're, we were selling it, and they came in, they just overbid everybody else to get the property. And I'm like, and it was cash. So our seller's like, yeah, let's take it. And I'm like, okay, well, this guy is going to he's going to have some, they're going to have some issues. And so,
I have to tell you something, Joe. Right now, I'm ticked off about this. So if you guys are listening, I want to say this. I've lent out money this year, and one of the things that I've continually talked to people about is speed of execution. You've got to be able to move. And I have watched as people sit around on these projects that they're working on, doing this, doing that, and meanwhile the ground is shifting under them. And next year they're going to turn around and say, oh, they're going to blame it on the market. They're going to blame it on all these things.
And
meanwhile, and the broker. Oh, it wasn't a good property.
Probably the lender.
Right. They're going to blame it on all the things. Interest rates changing. Meanwhile, they didn't. There wasn't the speed of execution, and unfortunately, when the markets turn, you see like the flippers and those kind of guys going out first because it disappears. But one of the things I find that people abuse in the industry, in real estate, as a real estate investor, is time.
Yeah. Oh, I got a classic example. It happened to us Friday. We put a property on the market, priced right at market. We've got 4 offers on it. The seller Saturday said, since we got such great activity, why don't we just hold off and see if we can get more offers? I'm like, and this is a friend. So I'm like, well, let me explain the process to you. And so a lot of it's going to be education for that kind of situation. But you're going to have to be educating people because there's all this information out there. You just have to be willing to hear it. I mean, if people didn't know interest rates were going up, that's kind of, we all know what's coming.
Yeah.
So, but then there's such a knee-jerk reaction to these interest rates too, right? And I'm sure you're seeing it, Neil, oh my God, interest rates get rent up. I can't afford it anymore. Do the math and see how much, maybe it only added, $500 a month to your payment or $200 a month to your payment. Do the math. Don't just stop.
Yeah. Oh, I've started to see a lot of people giving advice in this area, and I'm thinking please don't, unless you actually know the person's situation and what they're going through, because there are some really important things happening where everyone has been like, oh, it's going to be done now. Well, it's going to be done now. It's going to be done. So stick with what you've got. Stick with what you got. Meanwhile, we don't know if rates are going to go up another. Well, we're pretty sure they're going to go up at least another point over the next couple of months, but they could go up 2 points. For all we know, they could go up 2.5, 3 points into next year if inflation doesn't pull back, right? And so if someone is going, oh yeah, we've seen the worst, and you can't afford to make it to the other end, you're done. and
Yeah.
it's over with, right? You'll end up losing your house, your property before you ever get there, and you really have to do the numbers
Well, you're
and see what
seeing,
can you handle, right?
yeah, you're seeing a lot of people that are doing the BRRRR. Is that enough R's?
Yeah,
They get all 4 R's in there.
yeah,
They're struggling right now.
yeah.
The people that bought in certain areas with the
Yeah.
Airbnbs, or
Yes. Oh,
they're
Airbnbs. Yeah.
they're sitting vacant.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do now?
Yeah.
Now that the prices have come down a little bit in residential, depending on the market,
Yeah.
unless you're in a heavy tourist-driven area, it's going to be a battle. I was talking to a guy that has, I think, 7 Airbnbs in Palm Desert, and some of them have not been leased out since July.
Oh, wow.
He just can't get them leased out.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of homes on the market right now, so he's trying to figure out what to do. So, and he called me and said, I don't do residential, but I would be reducing. And I talked to the mayor of Palm Springs about this probably 6 years ago when everybody was buying Airbnbs out there. He goes, when there's a downturn, he goes, we're going to have a real problem. And I owned a real estate tech company at the time that I was operating. And we were all about tenant screening. And I just thought everybody doing these Airbnbs and all that should be doing tenant screening. And, so I was talking to him about it. And he goes, yeah, we got a real problem because we have too many of them being sold. So they were trying to cap it at the time. I didn't follow up with it to see what really happened, but I would think that that's probably playing a little true right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to just switch gears here because I want to make sure I give time for you to talk a little bit about the Wire Foundation.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that you've been involved with that for a while, and I believe the founder.
Yeah. Founders of my business. We had another business years ago called Learning Link Centers, and we bought multifamily properties in low income areas, and we'd take a percentage of the building and we would put in a percentage of the units. We put school teachers in them and discount their rents, and they were always local teachers.
Wow.
And for the discount rent, they tutor all the kids that live in the building. And these were all in, I don't know if you know LA or not, but Baldwin Village. Have you ever seen Training Day? That's Baldwin Village. Tough area.
Yes.
And, and so we would.
King Kong's got nothing on me.
Yeah, it was a tough area we were out there. And, but we would take a percentage of units, put school teachers in them, discount their rents, because teachers at the time, and they probably still are, were driving after school because they weren't making enough money to tutor. So the school that we bought around, the teachers could just walk to and from, and they could then get a rent reduction for teaching. And so it worked out well. And then we put in a studio or 1 bedroom. We turned it into a resource room, and that's where the teachers would teach the kids every night. And so that went gangbusters. And we started a foundation called Education Advantage Foundation. And that was all done to give kids, to get them onto higher education, scholarship programs, and then to get them to do life enrichment events. Like we took them skiing. A lot of kids have never been out of LA. We took them up to the ski. We didn't take them skiing, actually. Our insurance would have shot us. But we take them up to the mountains where everybody was skiing. And we would go fishing. We do all kinds of stuff with them during the summer. We go to the beach. We would go do NBA basketball games. They went in to see how a radio DJ performed. So they got all this other stuff. And so we owned those buildings for 7 years. And then we had some investors that said, listen, we were only supposed to hold these for 5, which we were. Let's sell the buildings. And we were honestly, we're out of kids. So our biggest weakness there, and this goes back to doing due diligence, is it stabilized a community that was constantly turning over. Yeah. But then the kids all started going up in the system, and then they went on to higher education and went and got a job. So we were out of kids in the program. And we're like, well, now what? So we have to sell the buildings and start over. And I just talked to one of the students yesterday, and we sold those buildings 8 years ago. So we're still in touch with a lot of the kids. And his mom still lives there. So he goes, yeah, a lot of the people still live there. And so we were like, I don't know how we're going to do this. We sold the buildings, we kept the foundation, and we just turned it into Wire Foundation. And it's women in real estate. And our goal is to to
Oh,
bring
got it. Wire. Women in
women in
real
real estate.
estate.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. And I
Okay.
was just dealing with talking to the people at Crew this morning. I want to get more involved. After we had to kind of stop it during the pandemic, right? So
Right.
we moved it online. That was struggling. It's really hard. It was really hard because the young women aren't really getting enough out of it, I think, online. And so I
Yeah.
just was having conversations this morning. So it's amazing that you brought it up about how I can go back and really get in person again. And so we're kind of rebuilding that right now. But yeah, it's, a lot of young people, young women from lower income areas want to get into real estate. They just don't know how. So we go out and help them find a mentor, and then they connect, and then they'll have meetings. They'll come and sit in the office with them. And we had one young lady that was from Orange County. We just hired her actually. And so she came on board part-time to help our marketing team. And so that's really what it is. So
Wow, that's amazing. Well, listen, if I can ever help out with that, or if I can connect you with somebody that might be able to help out, if you're ever looking for any female speakers in real estate. I mean, granted,
absolutely.
it'll be different, but
Yeah.
in our different markets. But I
Yeah.
think that'd be awesome and very
Yeah.
empowering to be able
Yeah.
to do that, right?
Trying to create opportunities. So I think it really helps the young women in those communities,
Yeah.
and it helps our industry. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
win-win.
Yeah, love it. Well, listen, if you're listening right now and you want to help out, maybe speak or teach or mentor or anything, or maybe get involved in some other way, Joe. But well, first of all, how would someone get in contact with you if they were interested in doing something like that?
Right there. That's the website, or in my email is joe@joekillinger.co.
Okay, great.
So
So with our last couple minutes here, let me ask you, Joe, what is next for Joe Killinger?
we're just sitting. We're growing our commercial real estate company in Los Angeles. So we're out recruiting people right now, looking for good team members. We're always looking for good entrepreneurs to bring in, and we do a lot of training. We do train. Our CEO does classes Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. And then our commissions are higher than anybody else in the industry. And the reason being is you're going to earn it because we're going to train you, and then we're going to cut you loose, and you're going to earn it. You're going to have to get out there and earn it right now, right? So,
Yeah.
but I'm a firm believer in paying people for what they're worth. I mean, even our marketing team, they get paid well. Plus, if they bring a deal in on our own marketing, they get a fee. And so we're just trying to build that team concept. But so we'll focus on the brokerage and our investments. We're going to launch as next year part of our, it will become a brokerage investment brokerage house. And so we'll focus on that. And then our YouTube channel, I really enjoy doing the YouTube channel that we have. And because it's helping a lot of people. I'm very fortunate to have such an active group of subscribers.
Yeah.
That will reach out and say, hey, can you do a video on, or can you touch on this, or they'll reach out and ask a question. So this is something I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. I was just going to ask you about the YouTube channel. And what is the YouTube channel, by the way?
It's just under my name, Joe Killinger, and you can go on YouTube, just put in Joe Killinger, it should pop up. It's a smaller community, and we're just really growing. We got on a couple of networks for being one of the fastest growing commercial real estate channels.
No, it's not smaller. It's intimate.
Okay, we can go with that. We can go with intimate, but it is. I mean, the subscribers they're very passionate about the business.
Yes.
And a lot of them reach out. Maybe not even on YouTube. Some of them they'll reach out on LinkedIn, or they'll reach out on Instagram. They end up following everywhere, and they ask a lot of questions. And so I'll spend a few mornings every week on the phone call with somebody, walking them through, especially the people who really want to learn how to be a commercial real estate agent. Because in some of the bigger companies, they're just not getting enough training. Right. And so we do that. And I enjoy it. I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay. And on the personal front, what's up for Joe in 2023?
Just more.
Let me ask this question to end us off. What do you love about your life, Joe?
I would say the team that we built. I just feel very. I'll give you one quick story. When I first got to LA, I had no money. I mean, I slept in my car a couple nights, found a place to live, and that's a whole different thing. But I was ended up cutting trees, and I was at Loyola Marymount cutting trees on the weekend. So I do telemarketing during the day, and on the weekends I'd cut trees. And you ever cut a palm tree, you have to cut from the bottom up. And I'm at Loyola Marymount, ocean breeze. I'm swinging back and forth, and I'm cutting, and just everything's falling on you since you have to cut from the bottom up. And I'm looking down, and I thought, here's all these pretty young ladies. Now, keep in mind, I'm in my early 20s, so all these pretty young ladies walking around, like, what? They're never going to talk to me. There's no reason to even talking to them. And I always thought, the day I get to go to the office and be around people I want to be around. Now, I love the people I was around at that time, but I knew this wasn't a career. That wasn't a career for me. It was just a job. And I just thought, the day that I get to go be around people I want to be around and I can control my destiny, then that's it. And I'm going to be in a damn suit every day because I was so sick of being covered in dirt. So that was my epiphany.
Yeah.
So thank you,
That's
Loyola.
right. Love it. So no more cutting trees and getting dirt on you, wearing suits, and more for 2023.
I grew up on a farm in Nebraska, so I was used to it. I was on a working farm, and that's what we did chores, pig chores, cattle chores before we went to school every morning, and
you're not afraid of hard work. You just want to do a different type of hard work.
Showing up in a suit every day in the office. If people think this is hard work, I'm going to introduce you to some of my relatives, and I'll see if you can spend a week with them back on a farm, because that was especially in the wintertime. That makes you very thankful to do what I do every day and the people I do it with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I get it with this YouTube channel. I'm meeting people all around the country, actually all around the world, that just absolutely amazing, that are doing nothing but trying to build something. And I love talking to people that are building something. Yeah.
Love it. Well, guys, if you want to, if you want to get more of Joe, please go to joekillinger.co, or go find him on YouTube, Joe Killinger, and any other place that they can find you.
I'm everywhere: LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. It's all under Joe Killinger. Reach out if you have any questions, or if I can connect you with somebody that's in my connections. I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, love it, Joe. Thank you. Any parting words as we end off here?
Stay positive. Don't listen to. Shut that TV off and stay positive. There's opportunity out there. You just got to find it and go get it.
Yeah, love it. Don't believe the hype out there. So that's great, Joe. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Leadership to Wealth podcast, and we'll see you again next time.